I am joined today by Jill Meyers. Jill, welcome.
Hi, nice to see you, Adam.
First question, how did you learn bridge?
I was 10. My family were card players, so I learned pinochle when I was 8. So it was kind of an easy transition to bridge, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just the game playing and there were rules. But my older siblings and my sister brought it home from college. It just got incorporated into the family games.
So it was just kind of kitchen table bridge.
Yeah, but then I got really into it and started playing. In those days, they had something you could play called auto bridge, and I got
Auto bridge.
auto bridge.
Yeah.
And then there was honeymoon bridge. You could deal the hands out, and then all that stuff. Yeah, I was really into it, and I used to deal hands out to myself and play them out. But it wasn't with any knowledge. It was just because I liked it.
So how did you progress from there?
I didn't play for a long time because my siblings were older. So once they went away, I didn't play after I was like 13 until I went to college. So in college, I went to college in New Orleans. In those days, there were always large bridge playing populations. So I just started playing dormitory and UC bridge, student union bridge. And I didn't even know there was anything called duplicate bridge. We just played dormitory bridge. And then when I moved to LA in the year after I graduated college, my sister and I needed people to play bridge with. Again, not knowing anything about duplicates, we asked a neighbor if she knew anybody who played bridge. So she said she didn't know anybody who played bridge, but there was a place in Culver City called Paul's Bridge Club she'd heard about. So we looked it up and we went because, again, we just thought this was going to be a social club and then we could also meet people because we're brand new to LA. And we walked upstairs and we saw the boards and everything. We were kind of looking around and this is weird. And then we saw the scoring slips and the convention cards and we said that this is not what we do. So we started walking down the stairs to leave because we didn't know anything about it. And the director was a woman named Doris Richardson, chased us down the stairs because she saw 2 young girls. And at that time, there were a lot of like 30-year-old guys that played. And Paul's Bridge Club had a lot of good players that like John Mohan and Roger Bates and Paul Soloway and John Swanson. I mean, it was really a hub for LA Bridge at that time, Eddie Canner and ever. So she chased us down the stairs. Don't leave. So she brought us back up and she had this very cute guy sit down with us and show us what we had to do. And so we played. We were horrible. On a 156 average, I think we had about 100. I mean, like we had no idea what we were doing. My sister did not know what Stamen was, but I loved it. I didn't care. I immediately got hooked. My sister was hooked too, but not to the same degree because she didn't have card sense. I started going and leaving work early and going, as we all do when we start playing. And I would play with anybody who asked me to play. So this one night I was playing with this guy named Jay. I went into the snack room and this very cute guy followed me in. Really cute guy. His name was Ed Davis. I don't know if you remember Ed, but he was the person who taught me how to play bridge. He was a very, very good player. And he said, are you on a date with him? And I said, no. He says, well, do you want to go have a drink after? I went out with him after and he asked me if I wanted to go out that weekend. And I said, only if you'll play bridge with me. I swear to God, I said that to him because I was so hooked. I didn't know how good he was. And that's how I really started playing bridge. I loved it, and I had a terrific teacher who became my boyfriend. And then because of him, I got to know all the LA players, that little social group, Alaska, and Mohan, all those people. And that's how I got into it.
How about reading? Did you get into reading bridge books?
Not really. Some
No.
like Watson and all that, but I was not hooked into like reading because I thought I knew that. I honestly didn't realize that I just loved the game and I liked to play. And I didn't realize that there was so much to learn about it. It's like any game, there's strategy and there's this and then the other. I just love playing and I have really good instincts for it. I just have good instincts. So I did read some later, but not in the beginning. In the beginning, all I wanted to do was play. I was 22 years old. I wasn't going to be a serious bridge player. I was a dormitory bridge player, right?
Later on, when you started reading, like what are some books that were profound for you?
Just Watson playing the hand. I know. I never read a ton of bridge books. Just like I never read a ton of books that I was supposed to read when I was in school either. Whatever Ed had, I read. I don't remember the titles. Like I like to read Mike Lawrence. I always loved to read Eddie Canner. A lot of it because his humor was so terrific.
Yeah.
My reading, honestly, was learning being around Paul Soloway, being around John Swanson. I was around really good players, and every Friday night, they go over the hands. That is really how I picked out things. I did read when something was suggested to me, but I really had mentors and teachers. And I was like a sponge when they would say something. And so I learned that way. And they always answered questions. And Ed was like an amazing teacher. He just really taught me from scratch.
And then at some point you started going to tournaments.
I started going to I used to love to go to sectionals. I didn't go to my first tournament for about 4 or 5 months. Decided Bridge Week used to be a huge regional in LA, but I wasn't good enough. I was a beginner, but Ed used to play anything, so I'd go and I'd watch. I used to watch the guys around here too, and I had a lot of good people to watch. So my sister and I, somebody talked us into playing the knockouts. In order to play the knockouts at Bridge Week, you had to play qualifying Swiss because there were so many teams. And I think I had played in a sectional, but I used to like to go and play, especially the Friday night mixed pairs at the sectionals, because Ed would play with me. And I was also very lucky. There was a guy named Terry West that was a kind of my level of bridge that became my first partner other than my sister. And we started going to a lot of tournaments. I'd say within a year I was going to tournaments and not doing like club games. And then I got hooked. I'd go to every tournament there was to go to.
Do you remember a moment when you were like, I think I might be pretty good at this game?
There was a Lancia sponsored Italian blue team year where the Italian blue team went around to like 4 or 5 different cities and competed against
Oh,
teams. I do remember Garozzo came and played with Rhoda Walsh at the club game. I had been playing bridge for about a year. Was fearless. I didn't care who I was playing against because I didn't realize how much better everybody was than I was, which was probably a good thing when you start out not to realize that you are awful and these people really know what they're doing. So I was like 22 or 23 and Garozzo was playing something. And I'm sure he saw this young girl and thought, moron, or whatever he would have thought in Italian. And I knew not to overrough him to get a uppercut, but it's not that I knew it. I instinctively knew don't overrough him so I could promote trump tricks for myself. And afterwards, he asked somebody who that little girl was. That I remember.
yeah, that's a feeling.
That's not something somebody said, you must learn, do this because it's my instinct said, don't do that. It's like I knew not to do it. And the fact that somebody of that stature recognized, it's not that it was such a great play. He thought it was probably a great play for a very young girl, right? I don't think you really think about it until you start winning. And then when you start winning, I think then you start realizing I got something.
Was there a result that you had that kind of you felt like put you on the map? It was like, yeah, I belong here with the big kids.
Well, winning the blue ribbon Paris, but that was much later.
Yeah. Okay.
That was
I
you
mean,
sort of
you've
feel
won a
like,
lot of, so
well,
I'm just wondering if there was one that sticks out as like, this is when I knew.
don't think that way because you have to understand I always had a career and bridge was always my hobby. I'm not a career bridge player. So it was always I think it's when you start winning you get used to it and you realize that you can win. But my most thrilling victory was the blue ribbon pairs. That was just so exciting because it was an open event.
How old were you by that point?
48.
Okay, so you've been playing bridge for
A long
20
time.
plus
I mean,
years.
but, in the middle of Blaine Bridge, I took off to go to law school
Mhm.
but I think certain wins are more exciting than other wins, of course. But that one was just I had a premonition that we were gonna win, and that was what the craziest thing was. I did. I'm very I have a lot of premonitions. I had a premonition. I had a premonition I was gonna win the World Women's Pairs in 1998. I wasn't gonna play, and then I had a dream, and I said to Sean Quinn, "Look, we're not gonna go traveling. We're gonna play because we're gonna win." I saw it. So with the Blue Ribbon Pairs, I called John, who was a very good friend, and I said, "We're winning the Blue Ribbon Pairs." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I says, "John, I had drifting off to sleep. There we were. I told him what I was wearing and the whole thing. I said, we're winning." And I brought that outfit. It was a little dressier than I would normally wear. I brought the outfit and we started to play. And I said, "Don't worry about it." So halfway through the first session, he said, we were doing terribly. He says, "This doesn't feel like winning." And I said, "Don't worry about it." And it happened. Like really crazy, it happened. I think sometimes those 2 times are very strong, but I think sometimes you have feelings one way or the other, just like you can have feelings to jinx yourself, which is sort of what you spoke with me about a few months ago. It's like you do a mind trip on yourself, and in that way, you can kind of jinx yourself. It's like you pull a string in your head, not in the direction you want to be pulling the string. So I think positive thinking and connecting with things really is a lot of it. Just like jinxing yourself is. And I think that's a lot what people do to themselves.
So At some point, you must have seen a lot of your peers start playing professionally. And did that occur to you? Like, did you make a conscious decision? No, I don't want to do that. I want to be a lawyer.
I never practiced law, but, I am a lawyer. I don't like the culture of professional bridge. I feel it's really backstabby. I feel like nobody's really your friend. I feel like they're more your colleagues. I never liked that culture. It just didn't appeal to me, so it's not something I ever aspired to. I just, like, didn't appeal to me. I used to when I really first got into bridge, I remember driving to work and thinking to myself, "I can't believe I'm hooked on playing with these little pieces of cardboard with numbers on them." I love numbers, everything, and it was really important for me to have something to have my work and everything, and I really like my work, and I do fun work, and I love my work friends. Those are my friends because I feel more socially I just feel more connected to them as people. I have bridge friends like Ed was and Mitch Dunnis is a really good friend, but my social life was not all bridge.
So you're now competing with people who do this every day for their living.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself sharp and competitive?
I'm not as sharp as I used to be because then I'm also getting older. I practice. I definitely practice. I do read bridge hands in magazines and stuff. And it does get tougher because you start to age out a bit and it's just your stamina's not as good. When you're young and you realize you can do well at this, you have a fire burning in you. You have a fire burning to prove yourself. And then when you prove yourself, you don't have that fire anymore. And I sort of feel that the trying to prove yourself and the desire to win brings out the worst in a lot of people. And I started not liking myself a lot of way because it really became important to me. And I felt like I had to sit back a little because I really wasn't liking what I was saying. And that's the truth. I just feel like I do feel that the drive to win and to prove and to do is so huge when you first start having success.
Are you competitive in general in your life?
Not as much as I used to be. I used to be really much more but I think a lot of that comes from and you're smart, and there's so many very, very smart bridge players, and if you ask bridge players, a lot of them are gonna say, "I was the smartest one in my class." If you were always that person, you expect to do well because you were successful in school, so you get in this environment where you're, like, taking tests against other people, and if they got 100, you want 100 also, 'cause I think people who are really smart and do well in school feel competitive against their schoolmates to be in a better place in the class. So that was part of it when I was younger, and then I just started maturing and realized there were other things in life besides winning, although winning is really important.
Would you say that that competitiveness manifested itself more as loving to win or hating to lose?
The loving to win, I think it feeds your ego. The hating to lose part, it wasn't so much the hating to lose as hating yourself for doing something stupid and getting over and not being able to sleep because you did something ridiculous and just going over the hand over and over. So I think it was the hating to make mistakes.
Did you struggle with at the table getting over mistakes and letting them go?
That part, I have a tendency to play too fast, and most of my mistakes are because I play too fast. And so Ed used to say to me, "At least you were the first person done playing in the hand." And Steve Garner has always said, "If you think about it, you don't make mistakes." So who I am is I think really quickly and get mad at myself more than anything for a bad result because I did something too fast or whatever. Making a mistake is to me, that's a mistake just because it's mechanical in your brain and you could have done something. You have complete control over it. The mistakes you made because you weren't good enough to know the answer, or maybe you just didn't think of it. I never get mad at that. I really learn from that. It's the stupid stuff I get angry and like I've learned to let it go. But I'll tell you, when you're having a bad session, it's very hard to drag the undertow away. You just like there's an undertow. Just like when I'm in a good session, the stupidest thing you do turns out to be right. When I was younger, I really beat myself up a lot because it was really important to do well. I mean, it's much more fun to win than not to win. And I still like to win, but I don't like beat myself up most of the time if I don't because there's other things in life.
My issue is also playing too quickly and kind of trusting instinct and not backing it up with judgment sometimes. So I'm curious, knowing that is one of the areas of your game to work on. What have you done over your career to work on that.
The thing, if it's a problem hand, I always take the time to play. It's the hand you think you know the answer to that you have the slip ups, and the information is always there for you. And this is a very logical game. So, and I love logic. So I just said, like, use your logic. Like, let's think it through. Let's plan ahead or whatever. And to me, always part of this game was the human side of it and not the percentage side. To me, part of the fun of this game is, if this person didn't take a save, what would they have? Or if this person didn't have this, or if they did have this, what would they have done? It's like figuring out the psychology of what they might, especially if you know somebody's tendencies. Why didn't they take a save? They have a card. They have something. They have the stiff king of trump. I mean, it's just like, that was something I was just always instinctively really good at knowing. So I think you have to rely on what you're really good at, even if it's not percentage, because I think logic and personality have a lot to do with it. And there was a woman in LA that I was really friendly with that always liked to take saves. And I was in a competitive auction, and she and her partner were favorable, and they were bidding spades. And we ended up in 6 clubs, and she didn't take a save. She would always take a save. And we had a bidding misunderstanding. I was missing an ace and the king of trump. And I banged the ace of trumps out of my hand because I knew she had to have it because she would have bid 6 otherwise. I mean, now, was that the percentage play? No. But I do think that a part of the game is the person. Like, Zia is the best person of knowing what's going on at the table and guessing that he's just a genius at it.
Have you developed any sort of like routine when the dummy comes down or anything like that to
I
know
think it
yourself?
through. What am I going to do? How did the bidding go? You know, but on the easy hand, I think sometimes the easy hands are the ones that you screw up more because you think you know what it is, and it just boom, and then you make a mistake. You just think, oh, there's no problem, and so you really have to think about how the auction go, et cetera, et cetera.
So you said that you practice between tournaments. What does that practice look like for you?
With Carrie, we love bidding hands. So we love bidding Larry Cohen hands, and we really do a lot of hands. You know Larry Coe, he has a bunch of hands to bid, a lot of them, and he has that book. And then we'll go online and practice, and it's mostly bidding hands because bidding hands is really important because slam bidding and not getting to a bad slam is like make or break a lot of times in this game. So we just bid hands, bid hands, bid hands. Not so much play. I mean, sometimes play, but and the system and all that.
So you're mostly working on partnership stuff rather than like your own game.
Yeah, but I used to love to do what I don't remember if it's a BBO or whatever. They have that where you can program yourself with really hard hands and then do those play of the hands. I always did like to do the problems where it's play of the hand in books or wherever, but I don't do that anymore. But I used to love doing that.
And does that partnership stuff tend to ramp up before a big tournament?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
How long are your system notes with Carrie?
They are 93 pages, but we don't have teeny little print. We kind of like do it so that you can like write notes. So, but they are 93 pages, but not 93 pages of tiny, tiny print.
Is one of you responsible for making changes and keeping the notes?
She types it in, but I will I'm like annoying to her because I'm always finding something that this doesn't fit. This isn't gonna. So we both are responsible for things we want to change, but she's better with doing notebooks.
And then at a tournament, what does your routine look like? Like, what are you doing once you're there to get the most out of yourself?
Well, that's why I don't go to tournaments anymore. In the old days, when you started at 1, I'd get up in the morning, I'd do my coffee, I'd do whatever. I'd work for a couple of hours. I don't study. Of course, before we play, I study notes, but I don't study notes. Then we'd play from 1 to 5. And a lot of times I wouldn't go to dinner because I come back and check for work. Then I'd play and then go over bad hands. And my advice always, if you have a oopsie with your partner at the table, don't discuss at the table, circle, and then go over it later because you might have just really had a difference of opinion or a difference of understanding what the notes were. But nowadays, I hate playing at 10 in the morning. Hate it. I just feel like I feel rushed. I have to go play. There's no time to eat lunch or come back. And then everybody wants to go to dinner. And my work really has to, I have to make a choice. And my choice has been working, not playing bridge. So it's really hard to have a job or have your own business and play bridge from the schedule now because it takes up the whole workday.
So you've just made that priority decision.
Yeah, I kind of cut back. I got hired to work on The Voice. I mean, the music supervisor of The Voice when it first started in 2011. And it's fun. It's really a fun gig, but it's a lot of time.
The TV show The Voice?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that's what you did.
Well, I've been doing it for 15 years. I'm a music supervisor. So anyway, it's time consuming, but it's fun and everything. So that was in 2011. And then taping is like, we tape all summer long now, and, like, when I went to Denmark, I had to, like, say, "I have to go, I have these plans," I'd have somebody to cover or whatever, but I still had to check in. But, like, the trials are almost always when the finale of the show is, which is I can't bail on that. The fall nationals are when the finale of the other one is, and I could maybe go for a weekend or something. So the spring nationals, I can usually go to some of it, but I can't do it all because people call you, even though they know you're gone, you still have to spend like 2 or 3 hours dealing with work stuff, and that's not my only show I work on. I have a lot of shows, and the shows are fun. I like them, and they're lucrative. It's another reason I would not wanna play professionally because I could never be the person to play with the client, because I don't have the patience. And to play semi-professionally is fine with me, so I mean, it's gonna sound crazy, but I really like working. I like what I do.
Does having those work responsibilities, do you feel like that takes away from your concentration when you're playing bridge?
Sometimes, not really, but sometimes I'll get tired because, like I'm telling you, the schedule, you kinda get a little bit tired. So, for me to play bridge sometimes now is great because I can, like, feel like I can throw myself into it and take my window of time that I've dedicated to it. Because there was a time when I would not miss one session of any national.
Has the game changed? Like, where have you soured on it, do you think?
Well, the game has changed because there's a lot more aggressive systems or whatever, which I don't mind those. Think I've soured more on it because all of my social friends that I did have either retired, like, or no longer with us. There is no bridge playing in LA anymore where there used to be a lot. So the friends I used to have a lot of social bridge friends, but I don't. So there's no bridge players here. And so I spend my time with other people, and so you don't sit there and talk about bridge hands, and it's kind of just a natural progression. It's not that I don't still love bridge and reading it, and I play with Sid online at least 2 times or 3 times a week. Is I still love to play. It's just the dedication part of it, it's just not my end all be all. I don't know. How do you explain? Because, to be honest with you, Adam, when I started playing bridge, I loved it so much as a kid. I thought to myself, God, you're just going to have this when you're older and you'll just whatever and la di da di da di da. And I don't love it as much as I used to. Tournaments aren't as much fun. And that again to me is because you're playing at 10 in the morning and then you have the spring. The ambiance of the tournaments is not as fun. They're not as social. I think tournaments used to be kind of like social. You go to the bar after this session because you'd already had dinner. And I used to love doing that, like going and talking about the hands after the whole thing when you were relaxed on the day. And now to me, the schedule has soured me on it.
Hmm,
Do you like the schedule?
I love it. Yeah.
Because
I'm not a night owl. Like, to me, playing bridge until 10 o'clock at night is just excruciating. And that long dinner break, yeah, it was not for me.
and I love the long dinner break to go over hands or just to stay in your room and relax, but I know to each his I think they should at least start at 11. I hate that you don't mind the 1 hour lunch break, you don't feel like raced then?
I could use a little longer, but I'm happy to just have a little bite to eat and meditate and recuperate a little bit and then go play and then have time for like a real dinner. That like 5 o'clock, I can't have a drink with it, dinner. I don't know. I
Yes, you
never,
can. You can have a glass of wine and relax and still do well.
yeah. So do you drink at tournaments?
I don't drink very much anymore, I kinda quit, but I used to love to this is like my joke. When I won the LM second, not the summer LMs, but the other LMs with Zia, we drank a lot of wine before the final session. I mean, a lot. I'm just telling you, it was, like, loose. And then the Blue Ribbon Paris before the final session, we at least had 1 glass of wine each, John and me, and it relaxes you a little bit. I don't get drunk, not drunk at tournaments, but Yeah, I find it relaxing to have a glass of wine before I play the evening session.
So you don't feel like it affects your judgment or performance or anything? You
No,
think it helps?
I think it does better because it relaxes you a little bit. You're not like freaking out. It takes the edge off of it.
What about physical fitness? Do you think that plays a part?
Yeah, I do. I do 30 minutes of treadmill a day and I do like 15 or 20 minutes of light weights and stretch. I just have my own little regime in the morning. And I do feel like keeping moving is super important.
So you do that at the bridge tournaments?
If I can, but I try to take walks because of the 10 o'clock start time is when are you supposed to get any treadmill or whatever. That's another thing. I used to go and do the treadmill in the morning and I can't for the 10 o'clock start time.
When you're on a six-person team, do you ask to sit out the first set?
I do express that I'd rather not start, but I don't feel it's fair to impose that. So I do what I'm told to do. So that's being a good teammate is more important than anything. So,
Yeah, no, I think you can express a preference without
and
making
a
any
lot of
sort
people don't
of
like to start.
fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't really care if you're starting at 10 or you're starting at 12. It's sort of the same crud to me because you don't get enough lunch break. I like the long break in between. As you don't, I do like it. So
Maybe you'd rather play the 10 and then sit out the second half and have a
a lot
break.
of times I do like to do that, but it's like you go to a bridge tournament now and it's all about playing bridge. Your whole day is about playing bridge. There's no time to really socialize with people. Don't you find that? Because you get up, you play, you have to go run, get something to eat, you go back and you play, and maybe you go to dinner and maybe you don't, but that's like your only time to,
Yeah, dinner becomes the social event. So I just plan really nice dinners and invite people. You
okay,
wanna
well,
come to dinner with me in San Francisco?
I'm not going to San Francisco.
Of
I'm
course
not
not.
going to San Francisco.
How does Carrie deal with that of, you're only there.
Well, Carrie plays a lot with Steve, so it's kind of
Yeah.
works perfectly for her. Like, we played 3 days in the summer. I went for 3 days and came home, and honestly, I wasn't gonna go at all for the summer, except for Mitch getting the award, and so I figured I might as well stay and play the weekend.
All right. I wanna shift gears and ask you about women's bridge a little bit. And just, I'm really curious about people's attitudes towards it. Let me start with this question. Why do you think the top levels of open bridge are almost all men and not very many women?
Okay, and this is another reason, if we're gonna go there, why I stopped playing bridge so much. There is a lot of gender bias in bridge, and in my other work, there is no gender bias, and I think the way men's brains work, I think on the mathematical side, I think men's brains work more spatially and women are more instinctive, but also men don't give women a lot of chance when they're young. They're not taken with the same seriousness. And I mean, look at Marianne Mickelson. She's dedicated herself to this, and she is like a top-notch player because this is all she does, and she works really hard, and she's been accepted there, whatever. But women can do well, it's just they're not really accepted. And so I think a lot of women, for that reason, don't just. And also because women have kids, which I didn't, but it's a whole different thing for women because the guys don't stay home and take care of the kids. Women are the child rearers. But also the women professionals, that's how they make their living a lot. And so it's a matter of finance. This is what you get hired to do. I personally much prefer open bridge, but I play the women because that's what I do it. And for me right now, because I don't feel like I put enough effort in to play all the time open bridge, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to go and this is probably a good thing for me to do. And that's what Carrie's doing. And their bridge world has really improved. There are a lot of good women bridge players now. So when you go to these tournaments and you're playing against women, it's not like fodder. Of course there is, but there is in the men's and the opens also. There are some really fine women players, especially the Europeans have cultivated it.
Think it's appropriate for a mind sport like bridge to have gender segregated events?
I think if there's a market for it, it's appropriate.
Do you think in some ways it holds women back?
No, because I
No.
think the women who want to play open bridge play open bridge. I always preferred to do it. I did it. And now there's all those mixed events, which I think is sort of level the playing field a little bit because you have to play as mixed. And you have to remember, Adam, that most of the really good bridge players, that most of the top whatever are professionals. So it's all about making money. It's how they make their living. So for my friends who make their best living from playing women's bridge, yeah, I think they should be able to do that if there's a market for it. And also there's a different vibe. I mean, the women are a little bit more fun in general than the men. And so there's a I don't wanna say there's more of a social vibe, there's just more of a I don't even know if the word's camaraderie, it's just like a different vibe. What can I tell you? So I mean, should we have senior events? Why should we have senior events? It's the same question. Should we have senior events? What do you think?
See, for me, I think that senior makes more sense than women's because, like, the brain does slow down. And everyone I talk to is like, I'm not as young as I used to be in memory and stamina and whatever. I don't think there's enough physical difference men and women's brains that they really need to be segregated. It's different than like, a man who can serve 130 miles an hour or hit a golf drive 400 yards, then the women just can't compete with it.
Well, how would you feel if the men were the ones who stayed home and took care of the families? Do you think they would be able to be as competitive? If you had to be a mother, a father that had to take care of the kids all the time and because that's kind of the role. So I think for women, the mother, and it's again, it wasn't me, but the mothering and the family and all of the nurturing and all of that stuff, and that takes a huge part of your brain up and a huge part of your time. So how many women just going to do this full time?
Janice told me the same thing. She said, there's a part of my brain as a mother that is always worried about my daughter. And even when I'm at the bridge table, it's there. So, I mean, that's why I'm asking the question because I have a very different perspective.
You say their brains aren't different. Their brains are different. Their brains are different on what they like. I'm not talking about intellectual or capability or smart, because if you could take any of we women and had to do an IQ test against any of you men, we would be completely equal if you had to give us that test, because it's just a plain test. And as we discussed earlier, most of the really good women bridge players were top of their class, always growing up. There wasn't any discrepancy. But the two things is there is gender bias, and women's responsibilities are different, and their brains, the men are the warriors, and I just feel as human beings, don't even talk about the brain, women are mothers, women are the nesters, women are the ones that take care of the home, and that's just kind of the way it is.
I wonder if some of that bias comes from the fact that there are women's events and that just kind of gives us a perception that the women's events aren't as strong, women must not be as good, just like subconsciously.
I don't know, I'm not a man. I just know it exists. And, it's so interesting that you're saying this, because let's not even talk about bridge. I talk about just the way the men and women are in general. And I laugh about it with my friends because men and women just don't operate the same way. Men and women don't look at things the same way. We're different as people.
I just think for bridge, they even out. And that, all right, if the male brain is, better at spatial reasoning or whatever, the
I do
female,
think that men are better spatially. I do think that their brains are wired, and I do think that whatever the creative side of the brain is, women are more creative. They're more creative at the bridge table. Don't be afraid to be that way. Don't and the other thing is that's why that women are instinctive, and men are much more mathematical players for the most part. And I think women are multitaskers and men are not. And I think men concentrate a lot and women just have a lot more going on in their heads. And there is bias. And I just think that, I mean, David Berkowitz once said he can't stand losing to a woman. So I think a lot of men are like that, though.
now that you're not playing that much,
Yeah.
you're still mostly playing in women's events, right? Like you were playing in the Venice Cup, not the Bermuda
Yeah,
Bowl.
because I'm not stupid, Adam. I'm not going to qualify or get on a team I don't play professionally full time to think that I ever have a chance to go and play in the Bermuda Bowl. The mixed, I did very well. I was second once in the World Championships and actually won 1 year ago. But the whole thing about that is it's not a time I can go and be away. The women's trials, because there's so few women, are like 3 or 4 days, so I can get away and do it. And I love going to the World Championships, and it's like my ticket to go to the World Championships. I'm like, I'd be an idiot not to do it
Yeah.
because, I mean, my goal is I want to go to the World Championships, and I'm not as competitive as I used to be. So I don't have a problem. I'm an opportunist too, and I enjoy the women I play with. I enjoy the sponsors I play with, and I enjoy their company, and I like laughing with them and all that. And,
Yeah.
so
No,
it's,
it's great. I'm just, certainly no judgment. I'm just, always trying to to understand and get in the minds of, someone who says, I prefer playing open and I don't have to do it for money playing in the women, but I totally understand, like, yeah, I get to go compete for a world championship. Like, that makes total sense. I'm going to let you go because I know you need to go.
I got to go back to work, Adam. I took an hour from work for you.
Jill, I appreciate it so much. This was great. Thanks, Joe.
Ciao, ciao. Bye bye.